On April 4th, 1922, a search party of concerned townspeople made their way to a remote farmhouse near Bavaria, Germany to check on the Gruber family. What they found was a scene of unimaginable horror. All 5 family members, along with their maid, had been brutally murdered. The mystery deepens with disturbing details such as an incestuous family relationship, strange occurrences on the farm prior to the deaths, and evidence suggesting someone lived in the house for days after the murders. For nearly 100 years, investigators have sought to unravel the truth behind this chilling case. In this video, we'll explore one of the most infamous unsolved crimes in German history, the Hinterkaifeck murders. The Gruber family consisted of 5 members: Andreas Gruber, his wife, Cecilia Gruber, their daughter, Victoria Gabriel, and Victoria's 2 children, Cecilia and Joseph Gabriel. Despite rich accounts of the family drama surrounding the paternity of Victoria Gabriel's son, Joseph, the Gruber family was, by most standards, a normal family. The father, Andreas, worked to maintain the family farm, while the mother, Cecilia Gruber, took care of the household. Victoria was seen as the most involved in their local town, being an active participant in the local church choir, while the rest of the family tended to keep to themselves. The Hinterkaifeck farm itself was relatively isolated, surrounded by dense forest and open fields, with very few neighbors in the direct vicinity, adding to the eerie setting of the events to come. On March 31st, 1922, the suspected day of the murders, 4 of the family members were lured one by one to the barn and killed, while their maid Maria and young Joseph were found deceased in 2 different rooms in the house. Tragically, this was Maria Baumgartner's first day working as the family's new maid. The previous maid had quit following her suspicions of the farm being haunted. When analyzing the crime scene, one particularly telling detail came to light. All of the bodies were covered in some fashion. Andreas, Cecilia, Victoria, and young Cecilia were found covered with hay in the barn. The maid, Maria Baumgartner's body, was covered with a bedsheet, and baby Joseph was covered with one of his mother's skirts. This act of covering the bodies suggests that the murderer may have had some emotional attachment to the victims, possibly indicating remorse. Prior to the murders, Andreas Gruber had reported several strange occurrences around the farm. He mentioned finding footsteps leading from the dense forest to the farm, but none leaving, hearing odd noises coming from the attic, and finding an unfamiliar newspaper from Munich that neither the Grubers nor their neighbors subscribed to on the front porch. Additionally, a day before their murders, it was noted that a set of house keys went missing and there was an attempted break-in at the tool shed. Why none of these strange happenings were reported or looked into confuses most people that hear about this case, but it can be inferred that perhaps Andreas did not think anything too suspicious of them and simply shrugged them off. Police believe that Victoria and her mother, Cecilia, were first lured out to the barn and murdered, followed by Andreas, and finally young Cecilia. They believe that young Cecilia may not have died right away following the attack, because evidence showed that she had torn out her own hair, likely from the trauma of witnessing her dead family members while bleeding out in the barn. After luring the first 4 members out to the barn, the suspect then went inside the house and killed Maria and finally young Joseph in their respective rooms. The murder weapon, which was determined to be a mattock, was found in the tool shed nearly a year after the murders had occurred. It was similar in likeness to a pickaxe and was believed to have been made by Andreas himself. The brutality of the murders was evident from the autopsy reports, which showed several blows to all individuals, signs of strangulation on both Victoria and Cecilia Gruber, and very bloody scenes. The difficulty in solving the case may be owed to many unsettling and mysterious facts about some of the family. For example, former maid Crescens Rieger revealed in a police interrogation that she had witnessed Andreas and Victoria engaging in sexual relations in the barn sometime during her tenure at the Hinterkaifeck farm, supporting the possibility that Josef was indeed Andreas' child. Interestingly, prior to their murders, Victoria had recently emptied her bank account and left a 700 gold-mark donation to the church for missionary work, but the rest of the money remained unaccounted for, a detail investigators could not definitively link to the murders. One important detail uncovered after the event, however, was that the perpetrators stayed in the house for nearly 3 days. This was evidenced by the fact that the livestock were fed, food was eaten from the kitchen, and smoke was seen coming from the chimney. Several theories have been proposed to explain the murders. One prominent theory suggests that a neighbor, Lorenz Schlittenbauer, who was Victoria's suitor and possibly Josef's father, committed the murders. The mystery surrounding the paternity of Victoria's son, Josef, was attributed as a possible motive for Schlittenbauer's involvement in the killings. Despite Victoria herself swearing to the end that little Josef was Schlittenbauer's son, official court documentation of the incestuous affair between Victoria and her father left room for speculation on whose child Josef actually was. It is believed that because of this, and the fact that Victoria was planning on suing Schlittenbauer for child support prior to their deaths, that this was the final straw for Schlittenbauer, supplying motive for him to murder Victoria and as a result the whole family. These speculations are accompanied by the fact that Schlittenbauer's behavior during the search was also viewed as suspicious. He seemed unusually calm around the bodies despite their brutal condition, had extensive knowledge about the farm, and disturbed the bodies before the police arrived. His familiarity with the farm, stemming from his romantic involvement with Victoria, aligns with the eerie detail that the murderer lived in the house and tended to the farm's animals for nearly a week after the murders. Another theory considered robbery as a motive. Because of the remorse shown in the act of covering the bodies, perhaps the murders were not intentionally planned by the suspect, but rather occurred as a result of a hiccup in their plan. It is possible that the intruder was planning on robbing the family, but was caught in the act and killed the family members who came out to the barn, subsequently killing the remaining members to tie up any loose ends. However, it seems excessive given the first family members were drawn out to the barn alone. The suspect could have killed them and escaped without having to murder the remaining family members inside of the house. Police investigated nearby townspeople as well as traveling merchants, but ultimately this theory was discounted when large sums of money were found undisturbed around the farm. As well, if the motive was robbery, it would be almost unheard of for a suspect to murder a family, rob them of their possessions, and then live in their house after the fact. This theory also does not explain the mysterious newspaper from Munich that appeared on the farm prior to the family's death. Venturing into the more conspiracy end theories, some even speculated that Victoria's deceased husband, Karl Gabriel, who is believed to have died in World War I, might have been the murderer. However, this theory was dismissed after various soldiers confirmed witnessing his death firsthand in trenches during the war. Modern criminologists and psychologists have revisited this case, attempting to create a psychological profile of the killer. The meticulous nature of the murders, the act of covering the bodies, and the subsequent living in the house suggest a deeply disturbed individual, possibly with a personal vendetta against the family. Theories also consider the possibility of more than one perpetrator, given the scale and execution of the crime. It is obvious that there were many investigative failures in this case when looking at it from the modern day, including the fact that there were a lack of fingerprints taken at the crime scene, an absence of crime scene photos and sketches, and deceased bodies being tampered with prior to police arrival. Because not much concrete evidence linking any one individual to the murders exists, this case has, and likely will, remain unsolved since its occurrence in 1922. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain as one of the most perplexing and chilling unsolved crimes in history. Despite numerous theories and extensive investigations, the mystery of who committed these brutal murders and why they did so continues to baffle both experts and enthusiasts alike. The tragic end of the Gruber family, shrouded in a web of dark secrets, strange occurrences, and brutal violence, serves as a grim reminder of the importance of meticulous crime scene investigation and the relentless pursuit of justice. As time passes, the Hinterkaifeck case endures not only as an unsolved crime, but also as a poignant symbol of the fragility of human life and the enduring quest for truth in the face of unimaginable horror. I've provided sources in the description below for your reference and continued investigation into this case, and I encourage you all to look deeper into the mysteries of it in hopes of unraveling the truth behind the Hinterkaifeck murders.